Great. So, Katie, are you ready to be our next? Yay, we can all do it. Are you ready to be our next lightning talk?
Yes, yes. That was really good, Melanie. Great, really inspiring. Thank you so much. And again, I'd really like to thank Chi for organising this event, and Claire Marie for hosting it so well. So I've got 10 minutes to ramble and hopefully keep you interested. So I'll try and be as concise as I possibly can be. I'm quite renowned for talking quickly. So if at any point I go a little bit too fast, please don't hesitate to let me know. Is the sound okay? Because I am in the countryside at the moment. I'm conscious of my signal. Are we okay? Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Yeah,
thanks everyone for sticking around to hear my presentation. My name is Katy Rea, and I am the founder and managing director of a creative agency called Battalion. We support a lot of technology companies, startups, innovators with their brand development and brand strategy. So generally what we're doing is when a new company is founded, they often have a great concept, a great product, but they don't necessarily know how to position themselves or present themselves visually. So our team come in and we try and understand their target market, who their competition is, and really help them to get their messaging and their visual, their brand, their website, whatever it might be. So that's what my business does. So how did I get to that point? So I have a bit of a colourful career trajectory. I'll try and give a little bit of background without boring you. I was at university in London, and I went to Ibiza for a season when I went on holiday when I was 19 years old, and I decided that I wasn't going back to England, and I had no money. A little bit of a student loan, but I needed to find a way to, survive over there. I was quite young. And I think that, with that energy, I was able to make some cool things happen. And a lot of it came from networking and meeting the right people at the right time. And I think I learned a lot about how important a network is at that early age. I was able to meet the guys that were running the zoo project at the time, and we became friends, and luckily they asked me to come back the next year to be a manager of the zoo project, which is a really fun party. If any of you ever go to Ibiza when we're allowed again, you should go. So I became an event manager of the zoo project, and I did that for 5 summers, which was amazing. I met a lot of people internationally. I was lucky enough to travel around Europe to lots of fun festivals, and I built quite a good work experience at a young age. And then when I was 24, I realized that I didn't want to work in the dance music industry anymore. A lot of people were partying hard around me. So I decided to make a change, and I ended up in London again, which was pretty hard. I worked at Soho House as an event manager for a year, and I found London really heavy from a work perspective. It was quite full on, and I ended up moving to Berlin, and this is where my company was founded initially. I found Berlin was a really exciting city, talking about now, almost 10 years ago, and there was a lot of innovation there. It was all starting, a lot of startups were moving their offices from San Francisco over to Germany. I mean, Berlin was renowned for cheap rents, lots of space. It's really beautiful. There's a lot of energy. So it's a really exciting city to be in. And I decided to set up an agency to support the music industry initially. So to use my, leverage my network, leverage my contacts, and also my passion for marketing and communications, and to take some of the areas that I had expertise in from my work at the Zoo Project. I decided to work with, to set up the agency, and it was really exciting initially. A lot of creatives who I was communicating with and who wanted to get involved, they were quite bored of working with commercial businesses. So we had like amazing artists who've been working with Nike, who've been working, you know, big agencies like Saatchi and Saatchi, and they were really excited to work with this really small agency in Berlin that had just started out, and they could get to work on lots of record label, record covers and music videos. So we were able to build quite a cool portfolio quite quickly, which was great. But unfortunately, the music industry, as much as it's really fun to work in, it doesn't really pay that well. So we had to pivot, which is a word that comes up a lot when you're talking about entrepreneurship. And I found a niche, and we found a niche within the startup industry. We got a contract with a music tech company called Pulse Soccer that were in San Francisco, and they were looking for an agency to work with in Berlin. And that was a friend that connected us. So again, you know, those connections, having good relationships with people really helps. And we did a pitch to them, and luckily, you know, people buy people. I mean, we were a really small team in a really shoddy office, but they liked us, and they gave us the job, and it was great. We were signed up to do their brand identity or rebrand. We did all of their UX, their UI for their new digital product, which was kind of like a Spotify for DJs. And they ended up selling to Beatport a few years ago for like 30 million. So that was cool to be a part of their journey. And yeah, so we started to work with more tech startups. We worked with HelloFresh, we worked with SoundCloud, and we worked with quite a few VCs and accelerator programs over there. And about 3 years ago, I decided to set up my life in the UK, so to leave Berlin, and it's been a few years now of setting up the office in Manchester and still keeping the clients over in Germany happy, and also, you know, trying to manage the teams and manage the legislation with the UK government, and then, you know, try and get my head around the tax system here, PAYE, get an accountant, and, you know, just do everything all over again, which has been a bit of a slog, but it's worked really well. Now it's really good, and we've got some really exciting new projects, and, you know, obviously things are a bit, you know, tricky right now, but in general things are looking really good for us, because we are luckily in the area of innovation. So there are, you know, our clients still have budgets because, you know, governments are, you know, luckily investing in innovation. So we're okay right now. So yeah, I'm going on a bit. Am I, does anyone want to, should I carry on, or?
You're doing a great job. Yeah, we're all excited. We're like,
okay. Sorry, I don't know if I know it's very,
it's fantastic.
Okay, so that's my background, and as far as, you know, what I would advise, if, you know, some of you, and I presume most of you are founders, which is, you know, amazing. So well done for taking that leap and doing your own thing. As I work a lot with new tech companies, I kind of see the same errors or the same things happening with newly funded companies or newly founded companies. and maybe I'll just give you a couple of takeaways if there's time.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Please do.
Go for it.
Okay, so sorry, I just need to remember what they are. No, I remember what they are. Okay, so a lot of companies, when they're starting out, they will go to market with simply a logo, and they won't have, or they won't have worked out a base style guide. It might be really obvious, but I do think it makes such a difference for the team, especially as your team starts to grow. If people know what fonts to use, where to use them, what colors you use, and just generally making things look tidy. Because if there's consistency across your channels, it really helps to give you a level of professionalism, particularly when you're talking to investors or you're just trying to get customers. If things are badly spaced or it's a bit sloppy, you're going to undersell yourself, and you might have the most amazing innovation, you might have such a cool product, but if it doesn't look good, it's kind of horrible, isn't it? But if it doesn't, it's going to affect you negatively. So I definitely say you don't need to throw loads of money on design. A brand is something that develops over time, and it should always be a work in progress. But I would definitely suggest making sure that you have some clear guidelines. I'm happy to share some examples of style guides with anybody who's interested. After this meeting, you can get my email, and I'm happy to share it. So yeah, just get a basic CI guideline and make sure all your channels are consistent. And then, a second takeaway I'd give to any new founders or new startups is, your messaging is really important. And I think that when you're in the stage of developing a new product or a new technology, you really are proud of your features and your functionality and all the things that you've squeezed or your product is doing, which is really great. But for somebody you're trying to sell it to, or again to an investor, a lot of the value or a lot of the pitch needs to come in the benefits and the emotional outcome of using or buying your service or product. So I definitely say break down your individual features of your product and work your way through them with an exercise where you figure out what are each of the benefits of your individual features, and further to that, what are the emotional outcomes. So why is it important to your customers, and how does it make them feel? Like what are they going to get out of it? And this is where you really start to get your marketing pitch and your marketing lingo, which is much more effective than you saying you have a chat feature. What are people getting out of that? It's going to be community, it's going to be connection. So yeah, that's another takeaway. And I was meant to talk about COVID. Do I have time, or should I?
Yeah, go ahead. You have a few more minutes, Katie. No problem.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was obviously, I mentioned that we were doing okay in this time, and I don't want to come across smug because I realize how many people are struggling right now, and it definitely wasn't just smooth sailing. The first week that we went on lockdown, I had a few contracts pulled, a few clients just obviously they couldn't support their marketing budgets anymore, which was totally understandable, and that was tricky, but it kind of lighted a fire in my belly again, and it was something that I realized that I'd been not like lacking, but I was kind of excited again, because I was like, oh wow, this is it reminded me of that feeling of when I first started the agency, where I was like choosing between getting a train ticket or buying food, because we were so broke, because I was putting all my money into the company, and I didn't actually have funding initially because my German was really bad, so I didn't realize how much help was out there. But anyway, so I think that what happened was I just started to just say yes to everything, and people were reaching out if we could do something, and rather than being too you know, oh, do they have enough money, or oh, you know, is it about a bit out, you know, out of our range. We were just saying, yeah, we'll do it, and just basically, yeah, we're just working really hard at the moment and scraping by, but it's good. And I think that, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll have a really thick skin anyway, and I think the resilience you get when starting a company and these challenges that come along will really help you in the long run, because, you know, you'll realize that a lot of being an entrepreneur is about managing, putting out fires, and just, you know, sorting out a lot of problems, and that's what really, you know, it should hopefully make you stronger. And another thing that I would say is that, you know, some really great companies were founded obviously in the recession. In 2008, Instagram was one of them, Uber was another. So, you know, if you do have a great idea, just don't give up on it, because, you know, you will, if it's a good idea, people will eventually, they'll need it. So yeah, just keep going, and obviously use any help that you can. So yeah, I think that was kind of it in a nutshell as my presentation for today.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. We've got some questions coming in, actually. One of them is, what is your view on pitching to clients at the moment?
Okay, so when you say pitching, do you mean pitching for free?
That is a good question. And maybe if you want to comment on both answers to that. So, you know.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were in the personal. Sorry, okay. Okay, I think pitching to clients in general is really important. If you think you're going to if you've got any chance of getting the business in, you know, go for it. You can sometimes, you know, you get a feeling, I think, a lot of the time, whether it's worth it or not. It's kind of trust your guts. If you're having a really good communication with them, and, you know, you generally, you know, really want to seal the deal, then, you know, go wild with the pitch. You can waste a lot of time pitching, where if somebody's just emailing, you know, 50 different companies or 100 different companies, and, you know, they're just copy pasting, and you've not had any face-to-face time, or, well, obviously now, you know, face-to-face, then I would worry about putting too much energy on it, because you can end up just spending all your time making presentations. As far as pitching for free, we don't really do that. That's my decision. So we might have missed out on opportunities in the past, but we don't generally do free pitches. But I think everyone has, you know, their own take on that.
Yeah.
But when I say free pitches, I mean doing something where we're presenting the work for, do you know what I'm saying here? If someone says, oh, can you present a logo ideas for us, or present a website idea, and then we'll choose whether we work with it. We don't do that for free, but what we're doing is presenting sorry, I'm not making much sense. We'll obviously do a proposal where we explain what we do and we put a lot of effort into, but we're not delivering final work for free.
Yeah. And another question that came in earlier was, what is the best way to get a community? Any tips?
Oh, community. I mean, I'm not a community management expert. I definitely say these kind of things are really, you know, good. You know, these events in general. I'd say authenticity and niches are also amazing. You know, these macro, you know, basically, yeah, these are macro events, or if you can be as niche as possible about what you're trying to, you know, build a community around, I think that really helps, definitely.
Yeah, and we actually heard that from Melanie as well. It was about authenticity and a niche. So that's interesting that you're echoing the same things. Another question we have here, if you have a limited budget, what part of the design process would you spend it on as a tech startup? Oh, that's a very specific question there, Natalie.
You know,
Jameson?
I think it's a really good question. But what I'd say is the design phase can be really well managed as far as budget's concerned if the preparation and the market research is done well before the design. So what I would suggest is that your brief is really clear to whoever your designer or your design agency is. So if you're concerned about budget, then what would be my suggestion is to do your competitor research on a design perspective, find, you know, things that you like the style of, make sure that your brief's really solid, because a lot of the time actually for design comes from the back and forth. So if you don't give an agency or a designer a really clear direction, then, you know, time starts to add up because, you know, nobody knows what you're doing. So we make sure initially that we spend about 2 weeks before any design really starts, where we're really trying to get to know our clients and their industry. And I'd say that if you don't have budget, do that yourself. Well, you should know it anyway, but make sure you get that to your clients.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because my business, I specialize in change management.
Gone out.
And oh, can you hear? Got somebody frozen.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Ooh,
I'll find you back soon.
Unlucky.
Yeah, it might be a brief thing.
Hold on. Are we working again?
Yeah, you're back.
Back in the room, literally.
For ages then. Embarrassing. Sorry.
It's shorter than you think.
Yeah. So, Katie, I was going to say that was really interesting, because I specialize in change management, and it's the exact same challenge when you start to engage with clients. Is you know, you need to test, do they know what they want? The unit of change, you know, what it specifically, let's articulate it, and time spent doing that is always a good investment.
Yeah. And just to add to that as well, your customer, you know, really understand who your customer is. That try and say, if you say everybody, then you know you're really going to have struggle. You know, make sure that you have a really specific customer in mind, and make sure that all your communications are going to be, you know, targeted to that, you know, even one specific person in mind is really helpful.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's back to the niche, like understanding. And of course, any good strategy is about what you're not doing as much as what you are doing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's a really good place to start, is to write your list of we're not doing these, and then you can flip that. And that can really help crystallize strategy, actually.
That's a great idea.
So, if we've got any other questions coming in, here's one from Melanie. Which tech do you use the most? Oh, really interesting. I think everybody should answer that question.
Google. We are, as you know, we use Drive. We use Drive a lot. Our emails in Gmail. We use Drive for docs, sheets. So I would definitely say that we store a lot of our files in Google. I hope this is safe to say. Yeah, a lot of our work is done with Google Drive, and then Slack we use for communication between the team. We also have Slack channels for each of our client projects, so the clients can communicate directly with our creatives. So that helps to move projects along. So yeah, they would be the key kind of management tools that we use with tech.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because there's a female tech founder Slack channel, isn't that right, Gigi?
Yes, indeed there is. Yeah, this is fascinating. I will put in the chat a link to that, so you're welcome to join in. And as someone's already posted earlier, we also have a coffee hour thing coming up from next month, really, but we're not at that stage yet, so I'm going to stop and let us do the Q&A with the speakers. I will share the link to the Slack channel. This has been fascinating. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. So Katie, I heard you talk about the professionalism and, you know, getting your colors and your brands and even your font lined up at the beginning. I've got one question here from Gigi, actually. Do you often start on the branding and then move on to the marketing for a client?
Yeah, that's exactly. We would start with the branding, but the other way around is it depends what you think about I presume you mean marketing as in the marketing activity. But if we're thinking about strategy, then I would almost then say the strategic marketing should become before the brand work, because but then quite sometimes our clients, they've gone to market already, and their brand is not doing them any favors, but they're really active with their marketing, but it's just the aesthetic. So it's kind of based, you know, really, I'd say it's a case by case basis. Sorry.
And also, if you're working with a lot of startups, you know, sometimes you just need to do something and get going. You know, if you
definitely
and think about it for too long, you do nothing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important to get going, but I wouldn't skip. That's what I was saying before. There's just a few things that I would be careful not to skip, because it could be detrimental to you in the long run. And those are just those, you know, base takeaways. Just have a tidy brand guideline, very simple, and a very basic messaging, key messaging document.
Okay, so we've one final question here now. What is the worst things a brand can do in communicating with their audience?
Not communicate, I'd say. That would be a bad thing to do. And then over communicate, that's another thing that would be bad. I think, you know, communicating when you've got nothing to say, you know, and just kind of, you know, posting things all the time. Make sure that everything, they stay with social media marketing or marketing in general. And I just want to clarify, I'm not a marketing expert. I'm definitely more in the brand side of things, but you know, it needs to educate, or it needs to, you know, entertain or create some kind of emotion. So you can really just make sure when you're posting something, is it interesting, or is it going to make them laugh or make them cry? And if it doesn't do any of those, then don't post it.
Great, that's really good advice. And it's sort of, it sounds like a bit like a Goldilocks principle. It's like, don't do too much and don't do too little. It's about trying to find the right thing in between.
Yeah, just add one more point to that as well. I think there's so many channels right now for startups, and I think when you're in small teams, you know, there might just be 2 founders, and you've got, you know, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and it can be really overwhelming. So I definitely find out where your target markets are, where are they, and just put your energy there and just ignore the noise, because you'll just end up, you know, being not very good on lots of channels rather than really good on one channel.
Yeah, I definitely have found that personally, and I specialize, you know, going, that's it, LinkedIn will do me, you know, because I'm quite a B2B audience, and then Twitter, and it's killing me that Facebook has crept into corporate life, because I had it reserved for cousins and friends for about 5 years, and now it's creeping in and contaminating. I like my little audiences in a little box. Yeah, very interesting. Oh, thank you very much, Katie. That was great. We really enjoyed that.
Thanks for having me. It's been really nice, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Yay!
Well done. It's been amazing.
So we have quite a lot of announcements and information to share with everyone. Chi and I are going to do a two-handed job here, and as we announce things, maybe also put it in the chat, though I don't know if we're going to get everything all at once. We'll also hang around a bit at the end for informal chat. So, you know, those of you that need to leave Spot on 6 are obviously welcome to do so. Those that want to hang on and say something, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to start, Chi, and mention some of these things, and then the bits I miss out, you can back me up. So the most important thing you've already mentioned, the new coffee morning hour is going to be happening on Wednesday.
Yep, the 17th of June.
And that's at 11 o'clock. And that's going to be a conversation where female tech founders can just come and chat and network.
Yeah, so it's basically trying to get in an hour all the networking and sort of connection that would have happened if this was happening face to face, and we had that time at the beginning. You know what normally happens at Clemery when people arrive just before 6 or so in the real world. It gives us time just to chat to people. There's no designated speaker. It's breakout rooms, and, you know, just moral support really in an hour. That's what it's for.
Fantastic. So we hope to see as many. And how do you book on that? Is that going to be on Eventbrite or something?
It's actually via Zoom, but Natalie's already on it. We have a blog post that tells you how to get involved. She shared it on here, but we'll also share it in the Slack channel, and you'll see it on social media. We're also going to be inviting everyone who's been part of the Female Tech Founder Network from February 2019. So if you've been involved, you'll get an email about it.
Oh, fantastic. That's great news. And then the other thing, I don't know if we mentioned it earlier or not, but the virtually speaking series that you've been running through Ascenti, I know you have something which I think is on the same date. Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I often don't talk about virtually speaking in this forum, but I will because you asked me. So it's basically the fourth in a series of events that we've been putting on to help people navigate the lockdown. So the first one happened literally as the lockdown was announced, and it was, the topic was remote working and mental well-being. A few weeks after that, we had one on remote working and keeping active. Monday just gone, we had one on remote working and homeschooling, and this one is on remote working and organizing events, and it's happening at 2 p.m. After we've had the coffee hour. It would happen at 2 p.m. that day. So it feels a lot like this. It's, you know, a webinar, but it's really, really interesting, and people come away with learning a lot when they've actually turned up to attend. So
fantastic, fantastic. So I'm going to take the next one that I've just put in the chat box. So this week on Thursday, the 21st of May at 11:30, there's something called Radical Talks for Radical Times, or Radical Thinking for Radical Times. And Queen Bee Coaching is a volunteer-led coaching service run out of the Pankhurst Centre. And we're all strong suffragettes here. In March, I remember we all had our badges on us and our sashes. So it's a free event, and they are open to sponsors, and any money raised is going to go to the Pankhurst Centre for the PPE they've had to buy as part of COVID, because that obviously wasn't in their original budgets. So I would ask you to check that out. They've got 4 speakers, and so it's going to be a bit like this, and it's all about radical thinking. So follow the link to find out more, and please do share that with as many people as you can. I think there's already about 130 people registered to come to it, and so we'd love to blow that 200 number out of the water between now and Thursday. The other thing I'm really excited about announcing, and I know some of you have been to this in the past, but Win Manchester has been running here in Manchester for the last 2 years. It's a one-day conference, and Chi-Chi was involved last year in doing some polls with us. And we thought we'd have to ditch it this year, but actually we've just agreed to do a half-day event on Thursday, the 18th of June. It's so new. The link that I've put on there has just got last year's information. So I want you to hold the date. It is happening. It will be a half-day conference of madness. And WIN stands for Women's International Network. So we're expecting it to be quite international, because people can come from anywhere now. They don't have to be in Manchester to come to WIN Manchester. So I'm hoping you might find that interesting. Other things we need to announce? Anything else that we need to announce, Chi-Chi?
Yep, the only thing missing is literally 6 days after that is the next Female Tech Founder Night. So we'll have the coffee hour on the 17th of June, and then a week after that we'll have the Female Tech Founder Night. So this type of event is back on the 24th of June, and it will be at this time, 4 to 6 p.m. because I think this time actually works better than 6 to 8 p.m. that we used to do back in the real world. Yeah,
I think this is better in the virtual world, but I did like the 6 to 8. When we go back to the real world, Paddy, when we're in the Eagle Labs, we're hoping we'll be back in the 6 to 8 slot with lots of fizz. That's just my preference. And then finally, to remind those of you that are interested, I see that, Paddy, in the Women Leading in Business group, again, we've heard a lot about building community and building resilience and networks. And the next one of that is on the 10th of June. So there is quite a lot coming up between now and then. So hopefully they're useful. If you've got any other events that are happening, please feel free to put those in the chat box now. Giulia, did you have something on women in innovation that needs to be announced, or has everything been announced?
Yes, tomorrow workshop is sold out. And the next one, yeah, it is good. But if you need any further information on crowdfunding, let me know. There will be another one next Tuesday. We'll insert here the link. I think I've already inserted that up there. I will insert here the link for registering. The events are free. There are more on KTM website, and there are also the slides for the webinar, so a bit of information about different type of topics. And yes, if I will insert in the chat also the link to the EN support, COVID-19 support, so you can have all the information there. So if you need it, you can contact me without any problem.
That's great. I've been grabbing links as they posted in. So I mentioned earlier, we're starting the Female Tech Founder Coffee Hour in about a month, and we're also going to be starting a new regular newsletter. So if you're in this event and you've got an event coming up that might be of interest to us, please drop me a line or contact us on social media, and we'll put that in the newsletter as well.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to wrap up today. I'm taking away some key lessons with me about staying focused, working with your network, checking out the grants, applying for loads of them. I really loved when Katie talked about the fire being back in her belly, and certainly when I come on a female tech founder event, I always go away with a bit more fire in my belly. So I hope everybody else has tonight. A huge thank you to Katie and Giulia and Melanie and Chi for participating tonight and making this happen. And I look forward to seeing you at all the events that have been posted, but particularly the next Female Tech Founder. So thank you very much. Cheers, everybody. Well done.